This video is going to give you an example of how to work with text in Illustrator, take it into Photoshop, and then to bring it back into Illustrator. So if we make a new page, I'll just make an A4 page, and I'll start by making text out of shapes. So I've got my character window and pathfinder that I've brought in over here, and I'm going to go to view. I'm just going to make sure that smart guides are switched on. I'll swap this around, so I've got a fill of black, a line of none, and I'll start doing it. So I'll do a circle, then with the pen tool you can see with the smart guides it's going to show you when it lines up. There we go. So I've got an R. See when it hits the top. Got an A. And I'll do this for an N, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a straight line, run it up here, and then I'll just I'll give it a line of black, click on the line, and I'll give it a thickness of 3. I'll get the circle again and I'll swap this around, and with this I'll come over here and I'll make a line, and with this line I'll change it to white, and I'll make that thickness the same thing. I'll make it 3, same as the other one, and then I just need the rectangle tool, and I'll do a skinny line here for the eye, put a black line of none, and then with these 2 lines I'll select them both and I'll just go object, path, outline the stroke, and then what I can do is with these things I can grab everything, get the shape builder tool, and I'll join the R up, I'll join the I, and with this one I'll hold down the Alt or the Option key and I'll just minus it out. So I'm trying to keep the qualities of rangi, which means sky in this case. So I'm trying to keep it simple, bold shapes. And I'll do another one now with text. So I'll type in rangi, get the arrow tool and just scale it up. Double click so I get the text tool and Command A, which highlights it, and then I'm going to go to the character and I'm going to go just change it to a font that I like. Alphabetical, I'll go bold, and what I'll do is now if I go Command Y I can see it's still solid, so it's type. Go Command Y again so it's back to the preview, and I'll go type, create outlines. Now if I check it I can see the outline, so it's now seen it as a shape. And what I'm going to do here, let's grab this stuff out of the way, is I'm going to change it to a line. I'll make that stroke a little bit thicker, and what I can do now is with the direct selection tool I can go over lines. If I hit delete once, I click on this bit, it'll delete it out. So I'm just selecting little areas and hitting delete so that it fragments everything up a bit. Might be a little bit much, but we'll see. Like this. I'm going to take out that little line at the top, so whatever I'm drawing over, I can just delete it out. So it's just a small bit, so select a larger bit. Oops, sorry. Direct selection tool, not the white arrow, not the black one. Okay. Now with all of this, I can click on it, highlights everything. I'll just go ungroup, select all. I can't ungroup it any further, and you'll see if I click on the R, it selects the whole thing. So if I select all of this, I can go Object, down to the compound path. Can't quite see it, but it says Make, and underneath it says Release. If I hit Release, all of these shapes now are going to become independent. And so I can start to move things around. So I'm trying to move things, scale them, and rotate them a bit. So that it looks a bit kind of skyish. Everything's getting fragmented and moved around. This one here says it's 1 millimeter, so I might just take that back and keep everything the same thickness. Just kind of focus on changing the angles a bit. And moving things around. So I can still sort of see the word in there, but now it's starting to mess with it a little bit. Can kind of see rangi, but it's got this kind of free floating feel to it. Now I'll do one more, so I'll type rangi again. It's come out in that same font. If I double click, I'll get the cursor. Remember, with the Option or Alt key, I can use the arrow keys, kind of butt everything together. This is while it's still text. But I'm going to grab all of this and go type, create outlines. I'm going to ungroup it so I have all the letter forms, and I can hold the shift key, start to scale things a wee bit. and maybe the R will jump up to being a bit bigger. Come in here and have a little bit of a look, just trying to get that to line up on the corners. Once I've got that, I can select these things, and with the shape builder tool, I'm going to come over here, hold down the Alt key or Option, and click off that little bit there. These bits here now, if I want, I can join them all up together. Keep running it through. Shape building it, there's a little wee bit here option, I'll just take that out. All of these things you can come in and play around with. I've got the smart guides on, so I can sharpen that up. Hit P for the pen tool, so when I go over this point I can minus it out. And again, same thing here. I'm going to take this point up. I can see with the smart guide where it's halfway. Pen tool, minus that off. And all of this I can mess around with. I can click on the inside of this and extend it or alter it. I can come in here and play around with the curve, so if I get the pen tool, I can minus off these points. So now I'm just working with this, and this is going to help me, because it's only 2 points there, get a nice smooth curve. So I can start to control that curve a wee bit. Right, so I like how that's working. If I double click, I can come in and I can grab these shapes, and I can still move them around a wee bit. Might put that there. This one. Down a bit. And so I start to get something that's got a wee bit of kind of energy flying through it. I'll double click out, so that blue line's gone, and now I've just got this whole, oops, double click. So I've got that whole shape there again. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one into Photoshop, so I'm going to copy it. I'm just going to make a new page and paste it. I'll move it up the top here, and then I'm going to go File, Export, Export As, and I'll give it a name. I'm going to make sure that it's a Photoshop file, and if I want that whole page to go, I go Use Artboards, export that. In this stage, whether it's grayscale, RGB, at the moment RGB, it only gives me flat image. I want the one that says write layers. So I'm actually going to do this as grayscale because it still lets me write the layers. I want the highest PPI, so I'll go 300. I'll go OK, and it's done. So now I can jump into Photoshop, open it, and there it is. Open it, and it pops up here. Now with the filter, I can go to liquefy. And we've got size of the brush. You can also use the left and right square brackets to change the size up and down. The pressure can build up and the density, and on this top option here that says forward warp, I can start to pull this stuff around, and I can keep going back and forth over it and really exaggerating that. The next one is the reconstruct, so this will try and push it back to what it was. Sometimes you can get some really nice effects coming out of there. I quite liked it coming down the middle a wee bit. And we've got a kind of a twirl tool. I'm going to go to the pucker one. If I go over the top, if I just hold it down, you can see it sucking everything in. So I'm just undoing that at the moment. The bloat tool, if I just hold it, blows it out. And you can see what's happening as you click and drag it. The push left and right tool, so just warping it further and further, but there's an option here that's quite good, which is the freeze tool. So I don't want anything to happen to the R, I can run that over there, and now when I push things, it won't affect that R. Control Z. And I've got an eraser, so I can just rub out those areas. It's a little bit slow on my machine at the moment. So with that, I'll go OK. So I've got one option here like this. I'm just going to go File, going to save it, and the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use the stamp tool. So for me, I'm just going to crop it down so it's a wee bit smaller. This won't work with transparency, so I need to come to the hamburger menu on the layers, click on it, and go flatten image. So it's now a single flat black and white image. Now if I go filter, and what I like to do is go blur, Gaussian blur, and soften it right up. Once I've done that, under the filter, I can go filter gallery, and the one I'm after is this one called stamp. Move it over and just reduce it down a wee bit. So the light and the darkness, you can see it's kind of bleaching it out a bit. If I put it up dark, it's going to lob it up. So I have it there, and then the smoothness, right down, it probably takes it closer to what it was, and it becomes more globular as it goes up. So when I've got what I want, I'll go OK, File, Save As, and I'll put this one, number 2. It can be a Photoshop file, that's fine. I'll go Save, and now I'm going to jump back into Illustrator. So I've got this one here, we'll see how they all look. Then I'll go File, Place, and we'll bring that first one back in. So I can click and drag to get the size I want. And with this, I'll go into the window image trace, and it brings up this whole palette here. If it's not active, just with the arrow tool, click off, click on it again, and everything will come up active. I put on the preview, okay, and I'm going to go ignore whites. I'm not going to play around with the paths, the smoothness, and all that sort of thing. I'm going to change it into a vector. So if I go Command Y, nothing's there, because the first thing you need to do is you need to go Object, Expand, go OK. Now Command Y, I can see everything is there. So let's try it with the next one, File, Place. So this was the one that went through the stamp tool. And you can see it going through the stamp tool, just the different kind of quality it has to the other one. Click on it, the image trace becomes active, ignore whites, preview, go OK, and again I'm just going to go, once it's done it, Object, Expand. Okay, so we've got these two nice pieces of type that are essentially vectors now. Now if I get this and I change it to the direct selection tool, let's have a look. There's quite a lot of points around here. So under Object, if you have too many points, you can go to Path, Simplify, and it will bring up this menu. If I can just click on those dots to expand it, okay, and then I can move it around. And you can see with this that it's already knocked a lot of those points out. Simplify the curves. Okay, if it goes up to maximum, it's looking more like the original. The further it goes to the minimum, you can see things like the G kind of sharpening out. So you can kind of play around with that to get it right where you want it. The smoothness, sharp is just bringing in a few more points. Smoothness is knocking it down a bit. So I can go OK, and again, all of this stuff I can kind of come in here, and I can play around with all the points. So with this one, for instance, if I drag it up, it's a double Bezier handle. So if I click on the pen tool, I've got the anchor point tool, and it will move these handles independently. Command jumps to the arrow tool, so I click on that line, let go, and then I've got the convert point tool. So I'm just trying to sharpen that bit up a bit. And what I can do here is with the pen tool, take out some of these curves as well. Less points, the less hassles you're going to get. This one, I'll just round it off a bit. And this looked like it came in quite a bit further. It was giving more of a curve. So you can come back here endlessly and kind of play around with it until you get something that you really like. With these as well, if I let's make that a bit smaller, and I'm going to try and affect the G. So the smaller one is on the top. If I want to see how it looks, I can change it to white with no line, and that'll show me what my end result would be. I quite like that. So if I select all and I go Object, Compound Paths, Make, this probably won't work. I'm just going to drag it over a bit more. of the letters. So let's try it again. We've got those two, and if I go to my Pathfinder first and I minus the front, it has actually worked. If it doesn't work, you need to click on these shapes and go to Object, Compound Path, make it a compound path, and then it'll get knocked out of the right shape. So I'll get the two of these minus the front, Command Y, and you can see it's become all these kind of independent shapes. I can Object, ungroup everything, which means now with any of these shapes that are separate, I can come in and scale them, rotate them, delete them if I want. Put a rotation on there. Command Y so I can see it, and that bit looks a bit odd, so I might just delete it. So you can start to get some really interesting shapes. All of these things as well, like I could grab this, copy, make a new page, paste it. Should move it down the bottom. So we're going to go File, Export As, and I'll call this one rangi 3. Desktop. We want to save it as a Photoshop file. We want to use the artboards. Go Export. I'm going to change it to grayscale. Right layers. Good. Into Photoshop. File. Open. And let's have a look. Rangi. So I can open this. Now if I go Filter, Liquify again. Now I'm going to try and make a big brush, and with this top one, I'm going to push all of this stuff up a bit. That's looking quite good. I'll go OK. If I want to crop it, I can, and it's the same thing. So File, save it, it's still a Photoshop file, back into Illustrator, place, place it, and again we've now got the option to ignore the whites, preview it, go OK, Object, expand, OK, and again this now is a whole bunch of vectors. And let's see what this looks like if it's knocked out of the front of the other one. Okay, so you get something that's almost just a pattern.